Star City Games Online Championship Qualifier number 2. I'm Nick Miller alongside our champion, Erin Diaz. Congratulations.
Hey, you too.
Thank you so much.
This was a pretty cool story because you top 8'd the first one of these we had. You had to, run into the bandsaw that was the Bant
Yes.
Zamp matchup at that event, and it's fitting that you faced Bant, again here. So
It
talk
had all
about
three of my
how it
top
feels.
8 matches.
Talk about how it feels, and in particular, talk about your deck because you used a lot of the new cards from Core Set 2021 as well.
Got it. All right. So the last time I got eliminated rather handily from last week's winner by Bant. The deck had a very well-known issue amongst Timor players, which was Teferi, Time Reveler, or Narset, harder avails. If they resolved it on the board and you couldn't remove it, it was a problem. And I considered going back with Jund, but at the end I realized that I could just pressure the board differently. Like, we play 4 Nissas, and Nissa really affects the pace of that match because we already have Growth Spiral and we already have Oro. So the 2 Llanowar Visionaries there are to keep a very proactive plan where a Teferi trying to bounce the Llanowar is a very bad exchange, even if I don't land my 2 Jor-Els. And while I've considered 3, I didn't want to be too weak in the mirror, considering that there's not great emphasis on Jor-El in the mirror. Like, she's not as impactful. You still prefer to interact with the Wilderness Reclamation. All in all, I think the new cards are amazing, and my favorite is probably Sublime Epiphany.
I was going to say, we got to see almost all of the modes on that card used in the first game, where you got to do the triggered ability, the counterspell, the draw card, and the bounce, and that was pretty crazy. Was that the best Sublime Epiphany of your event today?
No, actually, Sublime Epiphany's probably the most plus card there is. So when I qualified with Jund, I thought Casualties of War was that card. But in reality, it's Sublime Epiphany, and it's well worth the risk of it being disputed because you're playing a deck where turn 2, you probably want to interact with my Growth Spiral Jor-El. Turn 3, you probably are like forced to interact my ramp or encountering you. After that, you have to deal with Wilderness and Nissa and like the possibility of explosions. And there's but so many counterspells a person can have. And it boils down to me having very live epiphanies or using the epiphany to force you to tap out to activate explosion. It's just a card you can't allow to resolve because it nullifies big threats like Hydroid Crassus. It destroys the triggered ability on it. They don't draw the cards. It gets countered. And if you're looking for the biggest win you can get from that card, it's Jor-El's on the board, Llanowar Visionaries on the board. You countered their card, you negated a triggered ability, you bounced one of their permanents, you copy Llanowar Visionary, you end up drawing 2 cards instead of 1 card and Jor-El triggers. Essentially being a 7-for-1 trade.
Somewhere out there, Shaheen Sarani is just grinning ear to ear hearing about it.
Yes.
So I'm sure he'll be packing a ton in his next deck. We called your deck Team of Reclamation because it's still, for the most part, a Team of Rec deck that you played in the previous event, but you did get to use a lot of new cards, and you even nicknamed it, Rogue deck, because you were using so many different pieces here. How do you feel about the deck, now that you've seen what shook out in this event, and how do you feel about the format in general?
I think it's very hard. There are some times where I'd really probably want a 3rd Jor-El, but I think that's just like the inner part of any human being who wants an easier win and to not work as hard. In reality, yeah. I'm pretty sure the main board is good as it is. Storm's Wrath is a huge deal like this meta. A lot of people don't give it the respect it deserves. Sometimes I'll even board 1 or 2 in versus Bant. Really good for killing the Nissa lands, knocking out a Teferi that had to remove a Jor-El or a Scavenging or a Nissa land, and as well wiping out the Jor-Els. So that card's really good. It really, really hits mono green, which could be a problematic match. Really bad. So between the Jor-Els, the Aether Gust, the Ambushers, and the Storm's Drafts, we kind of lock it up and we leave the wilderness plan because they have gem grazer entirely, and we trim the Nissa to 3, and then we get Ugin as well, and we become kind of like Bant with this ramp, like go big. You still have to consider my 3 explosions. I take out 1 explosion, 1 Nissa. Now Ugin's here, board wipes everywhere, and I'm winning through Night Pack ambushers and Oros, which is the greatest plan B, I think, that can exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you have a top 8 on the season already. You've got a victory on the season already, so you're already queued for the championship at the end of the season. Are you going to be trying to play in any more of these and just keep running up your numbers?
I'm just going to keep running them up. Mostly, I want to support this event as much as possible. As I was telling Autumn, who I guess is going to be a new playtest partner, one of my main playtest partners is Canister. So I will continue to keep going because I want to get where my friend is. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, you're off to a pretty good start. You're play testing with some amazing players. You've put on a great show for 2 events in a row. We'll see if you can keep that going. Any closing shout outs or anything else to wrap up here?
Shout out to my local game stores because they keep the scene alive. Shout out to SCG. My local game stores are King's Games and like Game Story. And SCG, I mean, you guys put out enough online events where it's worth to keep playing. I love it. I really, really am grateful for you guys. Thank you so much.
Congratulations once again. I'm going to be wrapping it up here. The commentators have already turned off and signed off for the night. We've got another championship qualifier coming next Saturday. Queue for that in any of the challenges this week, and we'll hope to see you on the broadcast or in possibly a winner's interview next week at about this time. So for Erin Diaz, I'm Nick Miller. Thanks for watching.
Have a good day.